Our last few questions.
Yes, Mr.
and then we
President,
wrap.
you have said firmly that Amazon is not for sale. But critics often argue that enforcement remains weak and deforestation persists.
Well, I'm going to invite you two to visit the Amazon region, tropical forest. First of all, when I organized the COP30 meeting in the Amazon, I wanted that the world to get to know the Amazon. That's why it was held there. Because there's a lot of people that talk about the Amazon, but they know nothing about the Amazon, never been there. So it's important to know that in the Amazon region, 30 million people live there. These 30 million people want to live, that want to work, that want to have access to consumer goods that the people in the cities enjoy. People don't want to be locked in the tropical forest. That's one point that we have to take care of. The other issue that we have to take care of is that only in 3 years of my new term, we diminished in more than 50% deforestation in the Amazon. And now we're proving that keeping the trees standing is worth more than when you cut down a tree. We're proving that now. So that's why we created the Tropical Forest Fund Forever, that it's a new way to finance, a way to preserve the Amazon tropical forest. It's not donation of money, it's an investment fund. It's an investment fund. And I think this will manage for us to take care of our problems of deforestation. We have 6 biomes in Brazil, and we want to preserve all these 6 biomes. And this is a titanic struggle. This is a titanic struggle because there are people that want to preserve and other people that want to end with the forest. The people that have the awareness because they are scientists and they study the issue and prove that there's being a climate change very strong in the world. And others that don't believe in climate change. Some that did not follow the Kyoto Protocol, others that did not want to fulfill the Paris Agreement. And so instead of fighting with the others, I'm going to do my share of the work. So I committed myself that to have 0 deforestation in the Amazon till 2030.
Okay. Right. But before we close, just the fact that you said climate change, there can be no fight without the international community coming together. And here's where I want to ask you about the United Nations, reforms, strengthening them. Russia-Ukraine war, the world was divided, nobody understood. India was penalized by the United States of America. And now we're looking at the Gaza war. Nothing. Children have been killed. Nothing from the international community. Where do you stand?
That's why, Gita, that we are working to change the UN Charter and to make it more representative. The UN from 2026 cannot follow the same standard that it followed when it was created in 1945. What is the explanation for you not have 3 or 4 African countries, or India or Brazil or Mexico in the UN Security Council as permanent members, and you don't have Egypt, and you don't have Germany, you don't have Japan, you don't have Indonesia in that council. So you have to put in more people to give more representation so that we can avoid in this way to avoid what happened in Gaza. That what's going on now in dozens of countries in the African continent, coup d'etat, wars in the African continent. So it's necessary that the UN should be more representative, and today it is not. Today the UN is not more representative. So we want to change the UN. But instead of criticizing UN, as Trump says, there's only bureaucrats in UN, it's true what he says. And how can we solve the UN issue? Changing the way it functions. And who goes to war? Are the countries that are members of the UN Security Council. The US invaded Iraq. France and England invaded Libya. the United States threatens everybody every day, and they're all members of the UN, permanent members of the UN Security Council. Russia invaded Ukraine and is also a permanent member of the UN Security Council. So, if the head of the family does not respect the family that he raised, who's going to respect it? So we have to do, with great force, Prime Minister Modi, myself, and all the others that want changes at the UN so that the UN could be reformed and that should get a better representation. Not to allow that Trump will invade Venezuela, and not to allow that they can, Israel invade Gaza Strip and that Russia invades Ukraine. If the UN was strong, it could have avoided all these conflicts, but it's not strong anymore. So I believe that we are experiencing a very delicate times of in the world, and above all, with the lack.
Okay, Mr. President.
One last question.
Last question now. Since you spoke about your age twice during the course of this interview, you are 80. You say that you have purpose of a 30-year-old. What's your purpose, and what, according to you, is your legacy?
My purpose is the first. First of all is, what time did you wake up today in the morning?
I woke up at 5:30.
And what did you do at 5:30 in the morning?
Because I'm fasting, I read namaz.
I woke up also 5:30 in the morning. I walked 6 kilometers.
Wow.
In Delhi.
And I do this
Outside
every
in Delhi?
day.
Outside?
In the fitness, at the hotel, there's a fitness center. And I also walk in Brasilia every day, 5:30 in the morning. I wake up to work out 1 hour of gymnastics and 1 hour of muscle building, because I don't want to age. I want to be strong. I have a compact with God that I'll live to 120 years.
Wow.
And I heard in the newspaper that the man that was going to live up to 120 years of age has been already born. Maybe I'm that man. Who knows? Why can't it be me?
Maybe you are. It was lovely to have you on our network, President Sir. There are so many other questions we would love to ask you, but we know you're running out of time. You have important meetings ahead of you. But it was indeed a pleasure to know somebody, a president, who has spoken to us exclusively today, speaking about a lot of fight that's left in him. He's just 30 or going on 40. And he has also spoken about a lot of issues, which includes the fact that he's not going to compromise on Brazil's sovereignty. Thank you so much, President Sir, for joining us here.
Thank you for this conversation.
Well, Maida and Gita, thank you very much. I want to say to you that I have high hopes that Brazil and India transform themselves in superpowers, economic superpowers in the world. And we're working for that, towards that direction. I have an extraordinary relationship with Prime Minister Modi, and I want all the best for India, and he also wants all the best for Brazil. And if we continue to work with seriousness, I believe that we'll change for the better the history of India and the history of Brazil.